Am I the a-hole for calling my aunt classless and outing her biggest secret to my whole family? Original post. I, 25 female, have always been really close to my cousin Dave, 22 male. He had a harder time growing up because his parents had some financial difficulties. He never went to bed hungry, but they didn't have much money for luxuries. My uncle met his wife in a strip club where she was dancing. No one in the family knows this, but she left that work when she got married. They have a business, which Dave works for, that struggled for years but was one of the businesses that became vital during the pandemic. So things really turned around for them and they're making bank. This means that a few months back, my cousin could have an amazing wedding at a 2-month-long worldwide honeymoon. I was really happy for and proud of him. I grew up solidly middle class. Nothing lavish, but we had some things that some would consider luxuries. My parents, however, were not in a position to pay for college for me, which I was chilled about, and I got loans. I have been working for 2 years and I still live with my parents while I pay off the loans. I unfortunately couldn't get my master's because it wasn't financially viable. Last weekend was my birthday party and my cousin showed up without a gift. His wife made a comment, jokingly, about how they can't afford anything after spending X dollars on their wedding. None of this bothered me because gifts are not an expectation, but my dad was visibly upset. I asked him about this and he opened a can of worms. It turned out that I used to have a healthy college fund until my mom secretly lent it to my aunt and uncle to help save their business when I was 15. The agreement was that, as soon as they were able, they would pay it back to my mom. They haven't returned a dime. Well, they have in the last 3 years bought a second house, flown first class overseas twice, and paid for Dave's wedding and honeymoon. Their excuse is that I am done with college and their son works hard, so he deserves it more. My father got so annoyed at my aunt while relaying this to me that he decided to kick them out. While trying to calm him down, I said, "We both know she only thinks about herself and Dave. If she had any class, she wouldn't dress like she's still a stripper." I was so preoccupied I didn't realize that my entire family had quietly walked up with the candles lit ready to sing to me, and they heard everything. My aunt left and has since sent my mom a message that we will never be seeing that money as it is now compensation for her pain and suffering. I didn't mean to out her and be so rude. I was dealing with a lot of emotions and shock over this. I still am. My family doesn't know why we were so angry, so they just think I'm an idiot, and I don't want to tell them the whole story. But I'm not sure if it's excusable either way. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. You acted from emotions. And to be honest, your aunt is an a-hole. Do whatever you can to get that money back. Use the text your aunt sent to sue. People like that are horrid. You can still get a master's if you want to. They stole from you. I low-key think your mom is too, since she lent the money in secret initially and is probably a big reason your dad hasn't pushed for payback. Not stay whole and tell the family the whole story so they can understand. And sue. If your dad has any evidence of the loan and her agreement to repay it, I would 1. Pay a lawyer for a 1-hour consultation regarding the likelihood of suing her. The good news is that she has money and assets. 2. Armed with information from the lawyer, your parents should approach your aunt and propose a repayment plan. Emphasize that the loan was an agreement and that they aren't willing to write off such a substantial sum. This conversation is a courtesy notification, not a negotiation. You won't get your aunt's agreement here. If she was a reasonable person, she'd have already paid back the money. 3. I would disregard any noise about your insult. It's a red herring and a chance to divert focus from their theft. 4. Once you assemble evidence of a broken agreement, pick one reasonable, credible member of the extended family and share the situation with them. Ask for their guidance around persuading your aunt to return the stolen money without resorting to a lawsuit. There's a small chance they can help, and a nearly certain chance that they'll take care of the family rumor mill. Not the a-hole. The message sent to mom saying they're not repaying is evidence of the agreement. Back it up now, and in more than one spot. It's not just an evidence of the agreement. It resets the statute of limitations because it's an acknowledgement of the debt. It is potentially vital evidence necessary for you to prevail in court. Now for the edit/update. The money was in a savings account that was going to be used for my college costs. It was in my mom's name and so legally hers. She told my dad when I was applying for colleges, so he's known for some time. I don't know if it affected their relationship and don't plan on asking. Her and my father have done little to get the money back because she's not coping well with stress due to being sick. My aunt was upset because I outed a 25-year-long lie, more so than people knowing her previous work. I have apologized to her for what I said via text and have left it at that. I have yet to hear back from her. I have also confronted my prejudice against sex workers privately. I won't deny I have judged her because of it. It's not something I'm proud of. This blew up at a bad time because my dad had overheard that my aunt is so proud of my cousin for moving out and living on his own at 22. He just boiled over in my behalf. 40 update. My cousin asked me to meet him alone this morning. It turned out he knew nothing about it at all. His mom has been keeping it quiet. He took this week to consult with a lawyer to figure out how much they owe. He has also recently uncovered two things. Firstly, the business has been evading tax, so he is very glad we didn't take legal action. He has started the process to come clean and pay that back. Secondly, she also borrowed money from my grandparents, a decent amount, which she never paid back. They have since passed on, so the lawyer said that amount will form part of the estate and will be owing between the three siblings. My cousin offered to sell his house to pay in full immediately if need be, but as an alternative, he and his lawyer have created a payment plan that would pay for my masters immediately. They will take over my loan repayments immediately. Once it is paid, they will continue paying my mom back monthly until the total is settled. We will obviously be going with a plan where he doesn't lose his home. Despite my cousin and his lawyer seeming fair, they have both advised me to find my own lawyer for my mom's interests, and they have offered to pay for that too. Because of the age of the loan and lack of effort to collect on my mom's side, they could legally contest it, or some of it, but my cousin won't be doing that. My cousin apologized to me profusely and said that he wouldn't ask me to keep the secret from the family but appreciates that I kept it to myself and hopes we can continue that as long as he upholds the agreement we make. My cousin is an amazing human, and we will work with him to try to make the impact of his mother's actions on his life be as little as possible while remaining fair. And the best part of all of this was that he planned on giving me my gift after my party when we were alone because he didn't want to steal my thunder. It was a gift card, and inside the envelope was a sonogram. I am going to be a godmother soon, and I can't wait. Looks like the apple fell far, far from this tree. Cousin has morals and ethics his parents didn't teach him. That takes integrity. Tree was on a hill, and the apple did well to roll away. That's a new one. My husband is nothing like his family, and I constantly tell him he slingshotted himself off the tree. Lol. God, I feel sorry for that cousin. What a freaking bomb to have dropped on your head out of nowhere. Kudos to him to make things right, but still, that sucks. Never ever lend to family or friends with the expectation of payback no matter what they say. If you can't let go of the money in favor of the relationship, don't let go of the money at all. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to speak to my sister because she wouldn't let my daughter be a flower girl at her wedding? She originally was a flower girl. And causing multiple family members to boycott too? Plus updates. Original post. So I, 28 female, have a sister, 26 female, who got married last month. I'm gonna be blunt. My sister has always been one of those people that has to have everything perfect to the point that sometimes it was hard to be around her. But she was my little sister. And I have no other siblings, so I always made excuses when she'd hurt me when I was doing things right in her eyes. So I was kinda nervous when she asked me and my daughter 4 to be bridesmaids in February because I knew she was gonna be a massive bridezilla. Over the last few months, we have had to practice multiple dances, pay for very expensive dresses, and put up with her tantrums. I told her from the start if she was anyway nasty to my child, I wouldn't stand for it. She assured me that she'd never be nasty towards her favorite person in the whole world. Well, her now husband's little cousin Aid started coming to dance practice with her mom, and my sister started to ask her to do little things, like show my daughter how to throw the petals. I honestly thought she'd make them both flower girls for a while, but when she started to make my daughter sit out and have the little girl do her poem, I knew what was gonna happen, but prayed I was wrong. I invited her out to coffee a few weeks before the wedding and asked her what was going on. She told me she was glad I brought it up, because she was looking for the right time. Apparently, my 4-year-old wasn't doing everything right, and she was afraid she was gonna mess up her version by saying the wrong thing or not doing the dance right on the day. I told her she's doing a pretty good job and everyone was always praising her. Sister giggled and said it is not their day now, is it? So it's not up to us what's good enough for her wedding. I asked her straight up, did she think her niece wasn't good enough to be in her wedding? And she replied with, not as something big as a flower girl, but to attend. I asked her how was I gonna break it to my daughter who's excited about being in the wedding, and she just told me to figure it out. I told her I'd give her a day to rethink her decision. If not, we wouldn't be attending nor speaking to her ever again. Then left. Well, 2 days went by, so I couldn't put it off any longer and broke the news to my child. Even though I tried my hardest and sugar-coated it as much as possible, the news still broke her heart. She cried herself to sleep. So did I and my husband. Well, after a week when I was a no-show for anything, my sister started to panic and started to get everyone to talk to me, even drop off gifts for my daughter. When I told them why, a good number of our family, including bridesmaids, dropped out. We ended up going for a few weeks away with no phones. When we came back, my sister had sent me multiple letters and emails apologizing, while her in-laws and husband have called me an a-hole for doing what I did. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. For the people saying OP is the a-hole, consider. OP was expected to bring the child to the celebration after being told she was no longer going to be the flower girl. Yay! She gets to watch another child do the thing she was so excited to do and not make a fuss. Get a babysitter? Great! Watch her parents get fancy and leave to go to a celebration she is no longer a part of. OP's choice to not go to the wedding was correct. Her immediate family is more important than her sister. OP did not tell other people to not go to the wedding. She told them what happened when they asked. Everyone made their own decision. I am sure this was not the only crappy thing the bride was doing. Also, she had to attend multiple classes for the dances, which is a ridiculous amount of time, only to be told she can't be in the wedding. That's even more upsetting to the child, as she may think that she did something wrong to get her kicked out. Also, this girl is 4. This is probably the most upsetting thing that has happened to her in her short life. Agreed. OP did the right thing for her daughter and I applaud the way it was handled. Your daughter may not fully understand right now, but when she gets older, she'll know you have her back. You're a great mama, OP. Not the a-hole at all. Not the a-hole. She can't expect a 4-year-old to try everything perfect. And you can't control what other family does after they hear about Bridezilla. And she's an idiot. Because everyone knows that mistakes by little ones is the cutest thing ever and makes the day. And we just figured out the problem. Sister Zilla is worried about having the attention off of herself for 5 minutes if people are watching an adorable child. Now for the updates. My brother-in-law saw this post and told my sister, who cried reading all of your comments. How do I know? Because they showed up at my job knowing I wouldn't want a scene. They begged me to delete the post before people they know see it, and kept apologizing. Finally, my sister said she might be pregnant. I told her even if she is, pregnancy doesn't wash away all the horrible things she's done. And I hope her husband's siblings never treats her child the way she treated mine, because I don't plan to be a part of her life. She busted into tears saying she was sorry and that she loves my daughter. I told her to leave before I called security, and her husband tried to talk to me alone because I was making her so upset and everyone was cold towards them because of me. I told them no. Everyone was cold because Cinderella and Prince Charming forgot that after treating everyone like trash, that no one wanted to be in their happy ever after. They didn't like my mocking tone and raised their voice at me. My boss told them to leave, who knows the situation and has a 5-year-old herself, so she's on my side. My sister-in-law's mother-in-law reached out to my parents, asking for everyone to meet up on neutral terms so we can all work out our differences. I'm gonna go to this dinner party because I want to hear their story and officially tell them to leave me alone. I will update you guys. Important edit. My sister's photographer saw this post and reached out to me on here. She knew my full name and she gave me her Instagram to confirm. This goes deeper than my daughter not dancing right. Apparently, she overheard my sister's mother-in-law and aunt-in-law talking in the bathroom. They used slurs against my daughter and husband. They called me the black man's whore. The photographer said they were both drunk, but brother-in-law also made jokes around my sister earlier in the day, which she smiled at. She also thinks my family members heard it and is the reason they dropped out. So yeah, my daughter wasn't flower girl because unlike me, her aunt or the other flower girl, she doesn't have blue eyes and blonde hair. If you're reading this, Sarah and Frank, screw you and your family. My child is too good to be around trash like you both. Stay the heck away from us. And if anyone in my family knew the real story and didn't tell me, screw you too. Edit 4. Thanks everyone for the love and support, but especially thank you to the photographer who came forward. Thank you so much for bringing this to my attention before I let them back into our lives. You're the real one. Edit 5. So I thought I'd answer a lot of questions that keep getting asked because I'm tired and will be going to bed soon. My parents are fully on my side, so are multiple other family members, the ones that aren't cut off. My daughter doesn't know the full story, but as treat for all of us, we plan to take her to Disneyland for Christmas and my parents have said they will join us. As for my sister, some people have mentioned she might be in an abusive relationship. Well, her husband is from old money, and his family is very well connected in England, which is something she always wanted, so I don't know. But if she is in a bad relationship and afraid, it's up to my husband to forgive her, not me. I found out 3 family members knew, including a bridesmaid that dropped out knew. I've seen a lot of people making fun of the fact me and my husband cried ourselves to sleep the night my daughter found out. We didn't cry about her not being a flower girl, nor did we cry while she was awake. We cried because our child was extremely hurt, and there's no worser feeling than your child thinking they're not good enough for someone they love. For the commenter who was extremely nasty about my husband crying, a father's love is equal to a mother's. Men do and are allowed to have emotions. Do better. Am I the a-hole for not telling my roommate I owned a house? Original post. Brief backstory. About a year ago, my last remaining grandparent passed away and my father inherited all assets, including a house. I had been saving for a nice down payment, at least 50%, so I could have a lower mortgage payment each month, thus allowing me to save money for travel. When my father inherited his house, which he had no interest in moving into yet, he offered to sell it to me for slightly below market rate, with the caveat that he and my stepmother could eventually move into the basement apartment. I agreed, because they're both incredible people who were not at all invasive and would give me my privacy if they lived there. So I paid a 60% down payment, financed the rest, and moved in. Present day. About 6 months ago, I started considering renting out the finished basement apartment. It has 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a living room, and a small kitchenette, sink, fridge, microwave, but no oven. A friend of mine said his brother was moving to my city and needed a place. He's a brand new teacher and doesn't make great money, so he needed a place that wasn't expensive. I offered to let him rent my basement for way less than market rate of $650, which would include utilities. He readily accepted and signed a year-long lease. Well, a few days ago, he asked if he could start paying the landlord directly instead of giving me rent money each month. I was under the impression my friend had told him I owned a house, so I was confused, and I told him we don't have a landlord and that I'm the owner. He got very upset and screamed at me for lying for over 6 months and taking advantage of him by making him pay so much in rent. For the record, an apartment similar to the one in my house would be well over twice what he's paying me, closer to 3 times for something as nice. He asked how much of my mortgage is covering, and I said, why does that matter? You're getting a nice quiet place to live, access to a full kitchen and laundry room, and you're paying an amount that you can afford. My personal finances aren't really a factor here. He stormed out of the room and slammed the basement door. He's still not speaking to me. I asked a few other friends and some family members, and most said I'm wrong for having him cover my mortgage payments. Only a few say I'm in the right. So am I the a-hole for having my roommate cover $650 of my $775 a month mortgage? Edited to add, he has a lease, so I won't be evicting him over this alone. If it does any damage or becomes hostile, I'll look at the eviction process. But for now, he will remain unless he chooses to break the lease, which I'd allow him to do if he wants. He also didn't bother to read the lease before signing. The lease clearly states I'm the homeowner. I didn't trick him or keep info from him. He simply didn't read what he was signing. I didn't get the house for almost free as some people choose to believe. My father has sold it to me for about 75% of its value, more or less as an advance on rent he and my stepmother will pay when they move in here in a few years. We all agree they won't pay monthly rent, but will contribute to utilities and groceries at that time. I also made a 60% down payment, so I have quite a bit invested, as well as paying about $1,500 a month out of pocket for taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities, etc. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. I'm not understanding why dude's mad here. He thought he was paying some stranger's mortgage and instead finds out he's paying yours, or at least a good chunk of it. How does that offend him? Dude's weird. Not a-hole, especially since it's not like you were hiding that information from him. Though one thing you mentioned did touch a nerve for me. I recently moved into my own house after renting my brother's basement for several years. I was paying about 75% of what rent in our area would have been, and while I technically had access to a full kitchen, in practice I never really had use of it. I had to get used to eating mostly microwavable or frozen meals, because with multiple grown people cooking and he and his wife having priority due to being the homeowners, and our differing schedules, as I worked second shift, so I was trying to eat my first meal of the day while they were making dinner. And they were in bed 5 to 6 hours before me, so I couldn't make noise in the shared spaces. I was really locked out of doing much, and ate like crap for those years. The full bath was a similar story. Just having access to something doesn't mean you have use of it in practice. So renting someone's basement isn't the same as having a full personal living space. I have no rules regarding when he uses the kitchen or laundry room. I work long hours, so I'm not home a lot of the day and evening. He gets in at about 4 p.m. and I'm not back until closer to 8 p.m. OMG, are they freaking serious? What do they think people do when they rent? They cover the landlord's mortgage payment. You are definitely not the a-hole. And quite honestly, do not renew the lease with this person. How entitled can one person be? I rented an Airbnb for a few months when I was new to the area. More precisely, I rented a bedroom. Yes, I had access to the kitchen, shared bathroom with whoever else were guests, shared laundry room, and pool, but still, bedroom. For more than you're charging for a finished basement apartment. It sounds like your renter is going to get sticker shock when he moves out. Tell everyone who thinks you're ripping the guy off to check the market rate for the area, then go kick rocks. Were you supposed to let him stay for free? Again, not the a-hole, but I think I'd start looking for smarter friends. I'm only friends with his brother, and he thinks he's an absolute moron for being mad over cheap rent. He came over here yesterday and basically told his brother what an idiot he is, which made me laugh since I could hear him from upstairs. Well, at least you have him on your side. Good grief. I can't imagine going through life so dense. Don't forget, the tenant is a teacher, shaping young minds. I fear for future generations impacted by this buffoon. Not the a-hole. The question is the mortgage. Is fair market rate for what he's getting. I get the shock he's feeling, but is not entitled to free housing just because you're friends. God, I hate defending a landlord. Makes me feel dirty. I did not create an LLC or anything. Although I did have an attorney write the lease, I made sure it included no penalty for breaking it early as long as I'm given 45 days notice. I can definitely make the payments without a roommate, but wanted to be able to save more each month simply because I like to travel. And I'm also taking on the financial responsibility for repairs and such since I do own the house. You're also paying every other household bill for things he's using as well. Plus taxes, insurance, repairs. It can add up quickly. Taxes and insurance are more than the principal for my mortgage each month. Now for the first update. I intended to speak to him over the weekend, but he never returned my texts asking when a good time to discuss things would be. So Sunday afternoon, I sent a text stating I would be entering the basement at 6 p.m. Monday evening. He never replied. When I went into the basement, some of his belongings were there but some weren't. Bed was there but no dresser or side tables. And the second bedroom he was using as an office has nothing but boxes. The kitchenette was disgusting. The carpets were filthy, and walls had dents and divots in them. And the paint. I left him a note stating he needs to do some repairs and clean the kitchenette so as not to attract vermin. Then I went back upstairs. Well, he came back in today, early this morning, and was fuming at me for entering the basement without permission. I told him I had given him more than 24 hours notice per the lease, via text message before entering his area. His reply was that he didn't get that because he blocked my number. So somehow it's still my fault for not informing him I would be down there. I asked him if he intends to stay out of the lease or if he wants to break it. He said he's leaving and will live in his car until he finds a new place. I told him that's fine and that if he has all his belongings out by the end of the month, I won't make him pay September and half of October's rent, as the lease requires, and I'll refund the days he isn't here. He tried to tell me he doesn't need to pay that rent because he has 45 days to vacate. But that's only the notice period if he intends to leave. The lease still requires rent for those 45 days. So he's mad about that. I told him I'm being kind by letting him out early with zero financial repercussions. He was also told he's required to leave the apartment as clean as it was when he moved in, which was spotless since I had it professionally cleaned prior to his lease beginning, or he would not get his deposit back. He's throwing a tantrum about that too. He seems to be working on clearing the rest of his stuff out now. I told him when he's done, send me notice in writing, text or email, and I'll send him a refund for the days in August he isn't occupying the apartment. I have indoor ring cameras that I turned off when he moved in, but I've turned them back on until he's gone. I won't trust that he won't do more damage. Right now, I've locked myself in my office on the second story since he's really mad and was throwing things around in the basement and main kitchen. His brother and sister-in-law are also coming over the next hour or so because I don't feel entirely safe being alone in the house with him. As soon as he gives me notice that he's completely vacated the apartment, I'll be changing or deleting all the passwords/codes for all the deadbolts, alarm system, internet, etc. so he can't access anything at all. I'm ready to be done with him and to feel safe in my own home again. Thanks to all who read the original post in AITA. I'll post any additional updates here in my profile, though I hope this is the end of it. Reality's gonna slap him so hard in the face. I think it already has. He moved all his stuff out, notified me of his complete vacancy of the apartment, and is already whining to his brother about not being able to find anything online in his price range, which I'm told is $800 a month with utilities included. He won't find that where we are, unless he shares a bedroom with at least one other person. Well, that's not your problem anymore, fortunately. Just focus on your well-being and safety. I hope you are safe. I think he cannot comprehend you being the owner. Such a moron. He made some vague threats. Nothing I feel I should call the police over, but I still let his brother know just in case. My friend's wife is mad and is on her way over. My friend will be here after I finish his work. Out of curiosity, how old is this guy? Also kind of amazed he's responsible for children if he's throwing tantrums like this. He's either 22 or 23. I don't remember. He graduated college in December, so his early 20s. I'm genuinely baffled by this guy. Like, I'd move in right now for that price. And I don't even live in a state with particularly high cost of living. The only thing I can think of outside of straight mental issues is a huge sense of entitlement. Man's never been told no. As a teacher, my hot take. This guy was at the end of summer break when this started, not charging 45 days of September or October rent. I think he was broke. He probably was in a district where you have to opt into withholding for summer paychecks. He probably hasn't been paid since June. He wanted to mess around a landlord for a month or more by pretending there was some confusion with who and how to pay. He was never paying, and he was always running off instead of dealing with it. The odd part is the OP sounds like a decent gal, and probably would have made a deal with him. Some people do not know when they have it good. Now for the last update 3 months later. The former tenant begged to come back, but I declined. Actually, I offered him the apartment for over market value. Market value is about $2,500, and I told him he could come back for $3,300 to make him go away. He also declined my offer. No idea where he ended up, but after some of the names he called me after, I wouldn't let him back in. I don't care. I'm still good friends with his brother. He's a good guy who laughed when I told him about my offer of $3,300 a month. I didn't ask where the former tenant landed. I'm sure he has several roommates, but again, I don't really care. I will not be renting it out again anytime soon. I had to do some repairs, so I'm hesitant to let anyone else in. I may let my cousin's daughter move in next year, but I know her. I know she's respectful of people's property. Unless my parents move in before then. But definitely no more renting to strangers. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my stepdaughter and her family move into my house? When I married my wife, she had 2 kids. Jane was 12 and Ian 8. We had 2 of our own afterwards. Jane and Ian's dad, John, is, in my opinion, not a good guy. He rarely paid child support, and he worked under the table a lot to lower the amount he should pay. One Christmas, he stayed with us so he sees the kids open gifts in the morning. He had the audacity to switch a label on a gift I got Ian, so it came from him. I just swallowed a crappy behavior to not start a fight with the kids present. His kids love him though. He can do no wrong in their eyes. When Jane got married, he walked her down the aisle even though I paid for the wedding. I wasn't even acknowledged on the invitation. Once again, I didn't complain because the wedding wasn't about me. When Jane had her first child, I was told in no uncertain terms that I was not going to be her kid's grandfather. I was just her mom's husband. Ian and I are friends. He is always polite with me and we have bonded somewhat. After their mom died, he still came to see me and we often share a meal. He has brought his fiancée to meet me, and he hand-delivered my invitation to make sure I knew he wanted me there. Since her mom's passing, Jane has not contacted me. The funeral was the last time I saw her or her kids. I thought Ian's wedding would be the next time I would see her. However, the economy has kicked her family pretty hard and they lost their house. They need a place to stay. She called me about moving in with me. She wants me to move my kids into their old room so her family can have the basement suite in my house. I told her no. I wasn't going to uproot my kids from their area to accommodate her. I offered to let her have 2 rooms upstairs with me and she said she didn't want that. Only the basement suite would do. I said it wasn't going to happen and left it at that. Her father won't/can't help her out since he lives in a bachelor apartment. Ian lives in another city. Jane said that if her mother were alive, she would make me let her have the basement since it was her house too. So I reminded her that I owned a house before I married her mom and that it was 100% mine. Ian has reached out, and I made sure he knew the whole story. He knows I offered her 2 rooms for free and said she was dumb not to take the help. I feel bad about this whole situation, but I'm not going to move my kids out of their space. They're teenagers now, and I'm teaching them to take care of themselves. They're also still dealing with losing their mom. I'm not super excited about letting someone who dislikes me into our lives, but I'm still willing to help her. I feel like an a-hole, but I'm not changing my mind. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You were always her mother's husband, not her stepfather. Or even as the father of her half-siblings. It also sounds like she hasn't even been in touch with them. Yet she's now happy to upset all your lives. Exactly. She's lucky you offered her the 2 bedrooms because, personally speaking, I wouldn't let her in my house after all the disrespect she has shown me right up until now. But OP is a better person than me. The most she would get from me is a long-stay motel for 1 month or a ride to the local housing office if I'm feeling charitable. She's a user and have been taking advantage of OP for years. And if she did move in, I doubt she would ever leave. She's very entitled for someone who is facing homelessness. Not the a-hole. Don't let someone in your house that hates you. It would be a complete nightmare. Not the a-hole. And I wouldn't even have offered the 2 rooms. It's her life. She is an adult. She made her choices. Not the a-hole. She doesn't like you but expects you to house her and her kids. I wouldn't even give them the 2 rooms because you know she's going to try and guilt your children to get them out of the basement. And constantly be hostile. She wanted the basement so that she wouldn't have to interact with the family, but not the family that actually lives in the house. The stress of allowing her to move in would be unrelenting. Not the a-hole. Your stepdaughter painted herself in this corner, and she'll need to figure a way out. Personally, I think you need to rescind the offer of 2 rooms upstairs, as I don't trust her, her husband, and her kids to not bully and harass your bio kids into giving up their space for her and her family. And like most leeches, once they move into free housing, getting them back out will take a Vatican-authenticated miracle. In my humble opinion, that's why they're so adamant about having the basement apartment, because she already knows this is a long-term living situation. Update. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to contact my son after he was the one who abandoned me? Original post. I, 45 female, have a son from my previous marriage. I got pregnant way too young at the age of 20 for my high school sweetheart David, 45 male. We then got married at the age of 22 after we graduated college. David was rich. He didn't want me to work, so I was just a housewife. My son was the apple of my eye. I gave everything to him and he was my world. He and I were really close, and I never had a doubt in my mind that I would not be alone in this world as long as I have him. That is, until 10 years ago when I found out that my husband was cheating on me with a young colleague of his. And what is worse, my 15-year-old son knew about it and hid the affair from me. Imagine how broken I was, betrayed by 2 people I care most in this world. I asked him why he did that, why he hurt me, and his response was that his dad told him not to. He bought him gifts to keep his mouth shut, and having a young stepmom made him popular amongst kids. I was totally blindsided when I learned my husband took my little boy to meet that woman. They made excuses that they went on a ski trip, and they took his mistress with them. I felt like a fool at that time. Then, in the divorce ruling, my son chose my ex over me. I was heartbroken. My son didn't even want to visit me after it was all done. I even tried to reach out to him once he turned 18, but he just refused. At that point, I gave up and went on with my life. I would still get sad over the years wondering how he was doing, but I did move on. Met someone who is a single father of 2 girls, married him, and a few days later after our wedding got pregnant again. The pregnancy was a nightmare. I wanted to meet my son and tell him he is going to be a brother to a baby girl. The labor was painful. I almost died on the spot after giving birth to my daughter. I still wanted to meet my son, but I knew he did not want to see me, so I just gave up the idea. But over the years, the memories of him just became vague as I immersed myself into my new family. Then a week ago, I got a series of messages from him on my Facebook, saying that he missed me a lot and wants to meet up with me. It took me by surprise. Over the last 10 years, he has not contacted me. Now he wants to see me? Why? And I have been going over every possible reason. The worst part is that I do not feel excited about it. As a mother, I know I should be over the moon, but I'm not. My parents and husband know that, and they have been pushing me to meet him. They say I need closure. After all, he is my son. But I don't know if I want to relive the same trauma. So, am I wrong? Now for the top advice before reading the updates. You are not wrong for being hesitant. Opening yourself up to the possibility of being betrayed again has to be scary. You seem to be in a good place in your life now. Only you can decide the best course forward. The people who love you are pushing you for this reunion because they likely think that a mother having their child in their life is always the best course. However, sometimes, regardless of blood relation, certain people are not good for you. It will be hard for others to understand because they didn't experience your heartbreak. There is no right or wrong decision. Do what is best for your mental health. You could even decide to pause on a decision and tell him you need more time. I'm saddened that you experienced this level of pain. I wish you well. I am inclining more towards not going, but I have yet to make final decision. You could tell him you will reach out when you feel ready. That readiness may never come, but you need to put yourself first. The children you have now need to be the priority, and their mother to be in a good mental state. I want to give a different perspective here, as I was once in your son's position. My mother had no boundaries, and I was her best friend as a child. As such, I knew about her affair and kept it a secret from my father at her behest. This was, of course, devastating for my father when it came to light. These are complicated adult situations being foisted upon developing brains, and it can only lead to a warped sense of reality, confusion, guilt, shame, anger, and resentment all around. I was totally enmeshed with my mother growing up, and hated my dad when he tried to be the voice of reason. And only in adulthood could I look back and see how messed up the whole thing was, and start to repair some relationships. I don't know the exact dynamic with your family, but it could be similar, and he may deserve a chance at a healthy relationship with you, now that he has a fully developed adult brain, and possibly sees things differently. Did the relationship between your dad and you went back to the way it was? Is your dad divorced and have a new family like I did? My parents ended up staying together, which I actually think was a mistake, but not my business anymore. We all have a decent relationship now, but I keep a healthy distance from both of them. Boundaries are the key. Nah, I have a feeling he's only coming around now because he needs cash or something. Be wary. I wouldn't be surprised if he love bombs you to build a bond, then starts requesting things or telling you about his problems, so you'll feel obliged to solve them for him. This was my thought too. I'm curious how he reached out. Was he sorry? Remorseful? Or was it just to reconnect? I get that he was a kid, but he was also at an age where he has an understanding of what was going on and what he chose to do. If there was no remorse in that note, for sure he needs something. Edit. Wow, I never thought it would get this amount of response. But thanks. I will give an official update on this. But now I'm in conflict. If I do meet him, I won't call him to my house. Maybe a public place. I am not sure if he wants something, but I will be cautious of that. Edit 2. Thank you guys for all the support. I decided to meet him today, but I am taking my husband with me. He will not be with us, but he will watch us from a distance. For those of you who called me a neglectful mother who never reached out to him, well, I hope you never have to experience what it's like to be rejected and lied to by your own boy. I know a lot of you will justify it by saying he was only 15, but a betrayal is still a betrayal. But yeah, I will be keeping my distance. Now for the full update. A lot of you have been requesting me for an update, so I finally met my son after so many years. He was not a boy anymore, he was a man. He looked taller than I remember. I read your comments. Some of you gave me some good suggestions, and I prepared myself for any possible outcome. He could be there to meet me and tell me about his life, or maybe reconcile, or maybe he wants something. Regardless of what it is, I am keeping my guards up. I asked him to meet me in a public park. I asked my husband to be somewhere near so he could see me. My son came 5 minutes after I arrived. He was all grown up. I won't lie, I wanted to cry at that spot but held my composure. He said hi to me and I smiled. I commented that he has grown up and looks really nice. He just nodded and we sat down and it was silent. I was expecting him to say something at first, but I finally asked what he was up to these days. He told me he is doing fine. He just finished college and is going to apply for grad school. I said that is great. Then it was an awkward silence again. He broke the silence and said, "You must be wondering why I contacted you." And I replied, "For 10 years you haven't tried to contact me. Why now?" I cannot help but wonder why you are trying to contact me when you told me years ago you don't want me near you because I embarrass you. His face got serious, and he said, "I know that, but I need something from you." A lot of you suggested he must be here to ask for money. Well, you guys were right. He asked me for money, and the amount was 20K. He said he needed the money because he wants to go to law school, that his father can't afford it because he lost a lot of his money a few years ago due to a loss on his business, and his company was bankrupt. He also had 3 more kids with his mistress-turned-wife. That's why they do not have money for him to go to grad school. It just sank my heart. After 10 years, I was finally meeting him. I was hoping that we could reconcile and he would understand what I have been through. Or maybe my husband was lying to him. But no, he just wants money from me. I told him I cannot give him money, not such a huge amount, and he got defensive and kept saying why not. And then he asked, is this about Dad's affair? Geez, when will you get over it? I asked him, why do you hate me? What have I done to deserve your hatred? Have I ever raised my voice? Have I ever hit you or said no to you? Then why? You always pushed me away when I tried to get closer to you. Why? And what did I do to deserve it? He took a deep breath and said, you don't understand, Mom. You really expected me to come with you? You had nothing. At least my dad could afford a lifestyle I wanted, and my friends actually like Carla, his stepmom. Everything was fine until you discovered this affair and my deal with Dad. I get it you didn't hit me or scold me, but you were not able to afford the life I wanted. I asked him if he really thinks his father's affair was actually the best way for any of us. I sacrificed a lot for him, yet he chose someone who he only met when he was 14. He said he doesn't want to talk about that because it was so many years ago, and I should just drop it. I asked him why didn't he ever try to visit me. I even asked if it was his dad who tried to stop him or any other reason. Or is it something I did? I tried to reach out to him multiple times, but he never answered or tried to be there. I gave him space because I thought he was coping with a divorce too. He yelled at me that I was really annoying. His dad didn't stop him. It was he who didn't want to meet me because I lived in a small apartment with only 2 bedrooms. He hated living in a place like that. And he ignored me on his 18th birthday because the gift I had for him was pretty cheap and stale compared to what his dad and other people gave him. I agree. My gift was a box of his favorite cookies and an old vintage watch. I was struggling a lot at that time, so I couldn't afford to buy him expensive stuff. But does that mean he should have ignored me like that? I had enough of it. I told him strictly that I will not be giving him money. I have spent years wondering where he is and how he is doing. And now he is still very disrespectful towards me. Throughout our whole conversation, he didn't even ask how I was. He just went straight to money. I was here hoping that we could move on. He had no idea how much of a mess I was when I learned the man I loved so much would betray me, and then my own son would lie to me for him. I thought we had a special bond. My head has been going through a lot of conclusions. Maybe his dad was lying to him about me. Maybe he was mad about something I did. But now I have the picture, and I do not want to be his ATM. I wanted to be his mother even when he rejected me, but now I'm tired of feeling rejected and getting mistreated and taken for granted. He kept saying and getting even more defensive that I cannot do this to him, that I am ruining his life. I told him no, I cannot trust him to give so much money. He told me to cut the BS because he knew I have money now that I can easily give him some. I told him no again and again. He at one point stood up and blamed me and screaming that I am ruining his life, that I owe it to him. I just called my husband and he rushed towards me to keep my son away from me. I know now I should have trusted my instincts. I cried a lot when I came home. I lost him forever. I know a lot of you will call me a bad mother, will call me a narcissist, but I am sorry. I have spent a lot of time in therapy to get over the pain of losing my husband and son. I cannot have him in my life only to be used as an ATM. Even if I give him the money, there is no guarantee that after getting the money, he will not ghost me or push me away. And then when the money runs out, he will come to me again to ask for more. I cannot go through that same pain again. I may be able to forgive him for what he said to me, but I don't think I will ever forget what he said. He hated me because I had no money. I would have been fine with weekly visits from him, but he never even wanted that. Additionally, I discovered during our conversation that he was the first one to find out that my husband was having an affair, and he blackmailed his dad to buy him a new phone in exchange for not telling me. I lost. That's all I have as an update. I'm sorry if there were any mistakes. It is hard to write informed sentences and put all of it in a few words. And no, his birthday was not the only time I reached out like many of you assumed. I tried to reach out to him before that, many times. He said he didn't want to or had other excuses. I respected his decision and didn't bother him much. I finally gave up trying when he was 18, but I still checked his social media for quite a while until I gave that up too. Edit, thank you so much for all the support. I am by no means a perfect mom, but I tried my best. Also, as much as I'm hurt by his actions that day, I still hope he learns some adult responsibilities and becomes a more mature person. With that being said, I hardly think I have energy to reconsider reconciliation in future, even if he comes and says sorry. It was already too much for me to be there yesterday just to be humiliated again. Wow, my mouth was actually open reading your post. Unbelievable that he had the nerve to say and mean it. That he didn't want to see you because you didn't have money? He actually expected that you would just give it because he believes you have it now? He wasn't even gracious or humble, and such an entitled attitude. How are you ruining his life? Dad who gave him everything isn't now? You did nothing wrong, and this is not your fault. It doesn't matter whether you have the money or not the point. You were absolutely right to not give him a dime. You see now what this young man is made of, and it isn't pretty. I do think you are exactly right. He had no interest in you as his mother, and would have dropped you again. I'm telling you, I did not expect this, and his attitude and the way he talked to you is quite shocking. He showed no interest in his half-siblings, or anything about your life. I don't see anything you could have done differently. You took the risk to see what he wanted, and it is a damn shame he has turned out the way he has. I'm glad you have your husband and your family, and unfortunately now close the book on this part. Lean on your hubby and move forward with your life. And know you did all you can do and now you know. All the best to you. You are not a bad mother, and you have nothing to be sorry about. It was not that he was asking me for money after so many years, but it is just I don't know if he will use that money for something bad like drugs or gambling. Also, I have no way to confirm if he is telling the truth about grad school or not, so it seems too risky to give such a huge sum just like that. Your son made his bed, and now he has to lie in it. He sounds like he made some mistakes in his life. Now karma is starting to bite him in the butt. If he is upset, his stepmom or your ex can bail him out. Block him and move on. You deserve better. I don't get his thought process. Hey mom, I need $20,000. What's that? Why did I choose dad over you? His girlfriend had money, and you were too poor for me. Why didn't I contact you for 10 years? Get over yourself, mom. You're so freaking annoying. Now give me money. Like, at least try to act like a normal human being and pretend to be nice. What did he actually expect after telling her that? I'm not a doctor, but it sounds like a sociopath. Yeah, he knew mommy had money now, so suddenly she was good enough for 5 minutes of his attention. What a rancid piece of trash. Your son is deranged. And heartless. He's cold, callous, egotistical, entitled, seems to be devoid of empathy, and feels no remorse. Opie, your son sounds like a sociopath. Stay away from him. Sounds like he'll make a good lawyer. Just needs to work on his approach.